Critique is important. Criticism is important. This is something I've been thinking about a lot over the last few days with the Courier God. For those of you, well, I mean, if you're listening to this, you've probably read it. So I'll just get straight to the point. I am concerned that I mischaracterized Mr. House. There was someone on Space Battles who pointed out that Mr. House is very stubborn, doesn't like to compromise, doesn't really like to take advice from anyone. He's very much someone who wants to be in charge, his way or the highway. So, with that in mind, the Courier God doesn't make a lot of sense. I have to be honest, as hard as that is to say. So I have two alternative explanations. The second of which is probably more compelling, but the first of which I prefer. I'll leave it up to you. Explanation number one. Mr. House is playing the long game. See, he knows that the courier is going to die and he's going to be top dog eventually, so he deals with the death note until then. Explanation number two. In this version of the Fallout New Vegas, in this universe, Mr. House is a little bit less obstinate and stubborn than he is in his canon version. Maybe this is a version of Mr. House where the cut endings are actually available. You know, I mean, not every version of Mr. House has to be the same. Remember, I do write in a universe called the Multi-Universal Afterlife. Now, admittedly, that is a bit of retconning, but, I mean, given how frequently I write, I think retconning is kind of a necessity. Like, I can't really not use retconning when I just write constantly, at least up until my recent writing slump, which I actually should be out of soon, wink, wink, and nudge, nudge. But actually, I have good news. For those of you who think that the Courier God is a little bit implausible, I'm happy to announce that I will be writing a alternative called The Death of House, where Mr. House gets the death note instead, and he gets his way. Maybe. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I always like to respond to criticism in the most constructive way possible. And the most constructive way possible is to either adjust your story or write another one. So keep an eye out for The Death of House.